She doesn't push, she pulls. How manipulation begins quietly. You don't always see it at first. She's kind. Soft-spoken. Maybe even playful. She doesn't raise her voice. She doesn't make direct demands. She doesn't threaten. But little by little you start moving. Away from your instincts. Away from your priorities. Away from your peace. You don't know why. You just know things feel off. Like you're adjusting yourself to avoid friction that shouldn't exist. This is the beginning of emotional manipulation. And Schopenhauer would tell you this is not love. This is power. He saw human relationships not through fantasy, but through the will to influence, the need to dominate without appearing to dominate. And that is exactly how manipulative women work. Not all control is loud. We often think manipulation looks like drama. Yelling, ultimatums, obvious games, but the most dangerous kind. It's quiet. Subtle. Wrapped in affection. Disguised as care. She says, do what you want, but her eyes go cold when you actually do. I'm just being honest, but it's always at your expense. I support you, but her support disappears the moment your strength doesn't benefit her. She doesn't force your hand. She makes you feel like moving it was your idea. That's real manipulation. Not control through conflict, control through emotional suggestion. Schopenhauer warned about this. He saw that many people, especially in love, don't seek connection. They seek advantage. They want influence. They want reassurance. They want emotional territory that feels safe to them, even if it costs you your sanity. And the manipulative woman, she's learned that indirect power is the safest kind. How the trap works. It usually starts in 4 steps. She studies your empathy. She learns what makes you kind. What makes you soften. What makes you overthink. She knows that if she plays hurt, you'll stop everything to fix it. She attaches her emotions to your actions. If she's upset, it's your fault. If she's insecure, it's because you didn't say the right thing. You stop living your life, you start managing hers. She rewards compliance, punishes resistance. When you agree, she's warm, loving. When you disagree, silence, withdrawal, coldness. Now you're adjusting to avoid emotional punishment. You start thinking more about her peace than your own. This is when you're caught. You begin abandoning small parts of yourself, your time, your truth, your fire, just to keep things good. And she doesn't even have to ask. It doesn't mean she's evil. Here's the hard truth. Most manipulative women aren't evil. They're not planning every move like villains. They're wounded. They're afraid. They've learned that being direct doesn't work, so they strategize emotionally to feel safe and in control. But that doesn't make it okay. Because once you see the pattern, it becomes your responsibility to stop playing into it. Schopenhauer believed that true strength lies in independence of mind. That to see clearly, you must detach from emotional illusions, especially when those illusions are dressed as love. How it feels to be caught in it. When you're in it, you don't always realize what's happening. You just feel tired, but you don't know why, hesitant to speak freely, unsure if your needs are too much, constantly scanning for emotional shifts like the peace depends entirely on you. You may even feel guilty for questioning it. Because she's never aggressive. She's never outright cruel. She's just always a little hurt. A little misunderstood. A little distant unless you do things her way. And over time, your world shrinks. Your confidence weakens. Your clarity fades. This is how emotional manipulation wins. Not by overpowering you, but by convincing you to surrender your power willingly. The first step out, recognition. Schopenhauer would say the first path to freedom isn't confrontation, it's recognition. When you see the pattern, you begin to recover your clarity. You stop blaming yourself for her moods. You stop questioning your instincts. You stop mistaking peacekeeping for peace. And from that clarity, you can start asking the hard questions. Am I allowed to be fully myself here? Do I feel free to speak, move, and grow in this space? Or have I become a character in someone else's emotional game? Because manipulation only works when you're asleep to your own boundaries. Once you wake up, everything changes. The 5 silent moves of manipulation, and how to spot them before they sink in. Most men only realize they were being manipulated after the relationship ends. After the fog lifts. After they look back and think, why did I let that happen? The truth, they didn't see it coming because it didn't look like control. It looked like care. It looked like vulnerability. It looked like just being emotional. Schopenhauer believed that behind almost every interaction is a will, a force, trying to shape the world to its desired dot. Not always consciously dot, but persistently in relationships that shows up in emotional influence, subtle ways people bend others to get the reaction, attention, or control they crave. Let's break down the 5 most common tactics used by manipulative women. Not to shame, but to reveal. Because once you see them, they can't control you anymore. Point 1. Emotional withdrawal, the silent punishment. You say something she doesn't like. You make a choice without consulting her. You assert a boundary. She doesn't argue. She doesn't explain. She just pulls away. No more warmth. No more text. No more affection. Suddenly, the relationship feels cold. You didn't fight. You didn't hurt her. But somehow, you're being punished. That's the trap. You're being trained. Your nervous system starts linking disagreement with emotional distance. So next time, you avoid the conflict. You adjust your choices. You shrink just to keep the warmth. And now, she's not guiding the relationship through conversation. She's guiding it through absence. Point 2. Guilt framing. You're the problem for having needs. This one is subtle. You express a boundary. You say you need space. You bring up something that bothered you. She doesn't respond with honesty. She responds with guilt. I just feel like I'm never enough for you. I guess everything's always my fault, huh? You don't love me the way I need to be loved. Now, instead of solving the issue, you re-stuck comforting her. You're the one who was hurt, but you end up apologizing. That's manipulation through emotional reversal. Your truth becomes the threat. Her pain becomes the focus. And slowly, your voice disappears from the relationship. Point 3. Conditional affection, love as a reward system. At first, she's warm. Loving. Available. You feel chosen. But as the relationship develops, you notice something. Her love has conditions. If you agree with her, she's affectionate. If you challenge her, she's distant. If you follow her lead, she calls you strong. If you lead, she accuses you of being cold or controlling. She doesn't say, obey me or I'll withhold love. But that's how it feels. You begin to earn affection instead of receiving it freely. That's not love. That's compliance disguised as connection. And over time, you start twisting yourself into a version of the man she can reward, instead of respect. Point 4. Passive comparison, the unspoken threat. This is the move where she never says you're not enough, she just plants the idea. My ex used to do that for me. It's funny how other guys know how to express their feelings. My friend's boyfriend just surprised her with a weekend trip. These comments aren't direct. They're passive leverage, that she's not asking you for more. She's reminding you that other men are already doing it better. It's not encouragement, it's a threat in disguise. You're not inspired. You're pressured. Not to love her better, but to perform harder just to avoid being seen as lesser. This kind of comparison isn't about growth. It's about control through insecurity. Point 5. The chaos loop, start drama, then offer comfort. This is the most advanced one. And the hardest to leave. It goes like this. She creates tension. Maybe through misinterpretation, maybe through small jabs. You react. Things get heated. She either shuts down or explodes. Eventually you both calm down and reconnect. That reconnection feels deep, emotional, passionate. The cycle repeats. And you start confusing relief with love. This is manipulation through emotional addiction. She controls your heart by creating chaos, then offering connection afterward. It bonds you to her emotionally, even though your peace keeps getting destroyed. You become addicted to the calm that follows the storm, instead of realizing that storms aren't necessary in the first place. Why this works? None of these tactics are loud. They don't come with warnings. They come with emotion, with softness, with wounded eyes. And that's why they work, because they don't feel like control. They feel like just how she is. They feel like something you should be able to handle. They feel like your job to fix. But here's the truth. You can't fix what you're enabling. You must first see it clearly, and then start acting from your own clarity, not her chaos. Becoming immune, the inner discipline that disarms manipulation. You can't stop a manipulative woman from trying. But you can become the kind of man she can't move. Not through aggression. Not through dominance. Through something rarer, emotional sovereignty. Schopenhauer understood this deeply. He believed that the will, the inner drive of a person, could either enslave or liberate. And in relationships, when your will is weak, you are easily bent by others' emotions. That's how manipulation finds you. Not through force, but through unclaimed space inside yourself. This is where the work begins. Not on her. On you. Point 1. Stop needing to be the good guy. Most men who get manipulated aren't weak, they're overly responsible. They want to keep the peace. They want to be kind. They want to avoid hurting her feelings. They want to be the safe one. But when your identity depends on her being happy, you become her emotional employee. You say yes when you mean no. You over-explain. You apologize just to end the tension. You feel guilty for simply holding your ground. That is not goodness. That is emotional self-betrayal. Schopenhauer wrote, "Compassion is beautiful, but it must not become slavery." If being good means being controlled, you're not leading. You're leaking. The moment you stop needing to be seen as the good guy is the moment you start acting like the true man you are. 2. Don't react, observe. Every manipulative tactic relies on one thing, your reaction. She pulls away, hoping you'll chase. She cries, hoping you'll soften your truth. She compares, hoping you'll prove her wrong. But what if you didn't move? What if you saw it and said nothing? What if you didn't flinch when the energy shifted? What if you just watched calmly without losing your center? Now she doesn't have control. Because control requires participation. And you've removed yourself from the emotional game board. This doesn't mean being cold. It means being unavailable for manipulation. Schopenhauer would call this intellectual independence. The ability to remain unmoved by what isn't rooted in truth. When you stop reacting, she's forced to meet you on honest ground, or leave. Either way, you win. Point 3. Reclaim your inner authority. This is the core. Most men who fall into manipulative dynamics don't trust their own judgment. They feel something's wrong, but question it. They sense the emotional pattern, but second-guess themselves. They try to lead, but back off when she resists. If you're going to stop being pulled around emotionally, you need to trust your own clarity more than her emotions. That means saying, "I know what I saw. That's not how I remember it. I'm not going to change my mind just because you're upset." That's not cruelty. That's called holding frame. Your emotional world is yours. It cannot be dictated by her moods, her stories, or her strategies. Once you truly believe that, you stop seeking her permission to speak, act, or feel. And when she senses that, she either grows or she goes. Point 4. Lead with calm, not control. Some men, once they spot manipulation, try to dominate. They start policing her tone. They call out every little tactic. They get angry, cold, aggressive. That's not strength. That's reaction in disguise. Real strength is quiet. Still. Unshaken. When you lead with calm clarity, you stop trying to manage her. You simply stand in truth and let her reveal herself. Examples. That's not how I want to communicate. You're allowed to feel what you feel, but I won't respond to guilt. I'm open to truth. I'm not open to tactics. You don't chase. You don't explain. You let your energy do the work. And that kind of man, he doesn't attract manipulators for long, because manipulators can't survive in clarity. Point 5. Always be willing to walk. This is the backbone of everything. The man who fears losing her is the man who becomes soft clay in her hands. But the man who knows his worth, who knows his values, who knows what peace feels like, cannot be bought with beauty, tears, or tension. He doesn't threaten to leave. He just knows he will, if the relationship requires him to abandon himself. That's not ego. That's power. Schopenhauer said, "A man can be himself only so long as he is alone, and if he does not love solitude, he will never love freedom." A man who fears solitude will always sell his freedom to avoid it. Don't be that man. Can she change? The line between immaturity and intense manipulation is conscious. Calculated. Deliberate, but most. It's instinctive. Emotional habit. A way to feel safe without risking direct vulnerability. That's why it's so confusing. She might not know she's doing it. She might think she's just expressing feelings. And you're left wondering, is she emotionally wounded or emotionally weaponizing? That's the difference between someone who can grow and someone who will keep you stuck in cycles for years. Schopenhauer didn't believe in naive optimism. But he did believe that people could change, if they were willing to see themselves without illusion. Let's walk through what real growth looks like, and how to know when you're just being strung along. Point 1. She stops needing to win the interaction. In a manipulative dynamic, conversations don't solve anything. They circle. They confuse. They end with her being right or hurt, and you being wrong. But a woman who's ready to grow, she stops trying to win. She starts listening. She asks questions instead of defending her patterns. That's your first sign that if she no longer needs every conversation to land in her favor, she's beginning to drop the mask. Point 2. She can hear your truth without emotional collapse. Point 1. Of the biggest red flags in manipulation is her inability to handle feedback. You say something honest, and she spirals. Cries. Attacks. Shuts down. But when she's growing, she breathes. She listens. She holds the discomfort without making it about your tone, or timing, or how you said it. That doesn't mean she likes it. But she lets it in. That is the sign of emotional maturity awakening. Not perfection, just presence. Point 3. She owns her patterns without playing victim. If she constantly says, "It's just how I am. I can't help it," you knew what you were getting into. She's not growing. She's outsourcing responsibility. But when she starts to say things like, "I notice I do that when I feel insecure. I'm working on not shutting down in conversations. You didn't deserve that reaction from me." Now she's looking in the mirror. Now she's taking ownership. Now there's hope. Because the only way out of manipulation is through self-awareness. And the only path to maturity is through humility. Point 4. She doesn't just apologize, she adjusts. Words are easy. Tears are easy. Promises are easy. But what does she do after? If she says, "I'm sorry," but the pattern repeats 2 days later, she's not changing. She's managing your reaction. But if her behavior actually shifts, even slowly, even imperfectly, she's showing you her intentions in the only language that matters: action. True change isn't dramatic. It's quiet. It's consistent. And it's felt before it's spoken. Point 5. She becomes less reactive, more curious. The core of manipulation is fear. Fear of losing control. Fear of rejection. Fear of not being enough. That fear creates reaction. But when she starts to feel more grounded in herself, she becomes less emotionally reactive and more curious. Instead of, "Why are you saying that to me?" she asks, "What made you feel that way? Was I being defensive? Is there a better way I could have handled that?" This is rare. But it's real. And when you see it, you'll know. Because the conversation starts to feel like two adults in truth, not one adult and one emotional child. But what if she doesn't grow? Then you leave, not to punish. Not to shame. But because you're no longer willing to shrink yourself to make the relationship feel safe. You've offered the truth. You've held the line. You've created space for honesty and reflection. If she refuses to meet you there, it's not your responsibility to wait. Schopenhauer would remind you, not every soul wants freedom. Some people are more comfortable in control. Some prefer the drama because silence feels empty. And if that's who she is, you must walk. Clean. Clear. Without regret. Final filter. Can you be fully yourself? Forget everything else. This is the core question. Can you be fully yourself around her? Can you speak without filtering, move without guilt, love without fear? If the answer is no, you already know what to do. Because no woman, no matter how beautiful or sweet or bonded, is worth the price of your peace. Leaving the game. How to end manipulation without losing yourself. At some point, it becomes clear. She's not going to change. Or maybe she will, but not with you. And not while you're still standing there trying to prove your worth. Truth. That you've tried everything. You've spoken with patience. You've held the line. You've owned your part. But the cycles continue. The tension stays. And deep down, you know, if I don't leave, I'll lose myself. This is the quiet breaking point. The moment that doesn't come with fireworks, just clarity. And when that moment comes, you don't run. You rise. Let go without drama. You don't need to prove anything. You don't need to yell. You don't need to list every way she failed. The power move is silence. Clean exit. Simple truth. Say what needs to be said. Once. Then go. This dynamic doesn't serve either of us anymore. I need peace more than I need potential. I'm stepping away, with respect, but for good. And then don't explain. Don't argue. Don't re-enter the storm because it's familiar. Schopenhauer believed that the soul finds peace only when it breaks free from false desire. This relationship was a false desire. And now, you're free. Don't let the experience harden you. Here's the risk after walking away. You become closed. Guarded. Distrustful. You say, "I'll never let that happen again." And you build a wall so high that no one, not even the good ones, can reach you. Don't let that happen. You don't need to become cold to be clear. You don't need to become detached to be free. You don't need to fear love. You just need to honor your boundaries. The manipulation was real. But so was your heart. Don't punish the part of you that tried. That love. That stayed hopeful. Let that part heal, not disappear. Learn the lessons, but don't wear the armor. Every manipulative relationship teaches you something. How to spot the signs early, how to trust your instincts, how to speak truth, even when it shakes the room, how to walk. Not out of anger, but out of alignment. Take the lesson. Leave the armor. Because the right woman won't need you to protect yourself from her. She'll meet your truth with her own. She'll bring peace, not confusion. And you won't have to shrink to keep her close. Create a relationship where manipulation can't breathe. This is the final level. Now that you've walked through the fire, you're ready for something else that a relationship built on. Clarity over comfort, accountability over blame, calm over chaos, respect over reaction. You get there by leading with truth from day one. By making your peace more sacred than her approval. By being honest, even if it costs you short-term affection. By choosing connection, not compliance. And by walking away at the first sign that your emotional space is being invaded by confusion, guilt, or silence. Manipulation dies in clean air. Keep yours clean. Final reflection. You were never hers to control. You came into this world free. You were born with a soul meant to move with clarity, strength, stillness. When a woman tries to control that, to shape it through moods, games, or guilt, she's not loving you. She's managing you. And no man was made to be managed. Schopenhauer didn't write about love with sentiment. He wrote with realism. He knew that freedom is more sacred than romance. So choose it. Even when it hurts. Even when you still care. Even when your heart says stay. Because real love doesn't cost your peace. And the woman who's meant for you will never need to take your power to feel her own. What to watch next? If this spoke to something deep in you, you're not alone. And you're just getting started. In the next video, we'll explore the woman you want versus the woman you need. Arthur Schopenhauer on false desire. Because sometimes, what attracts you is the very thing that distracts you from your purpose. Until then, stand firm, speak clean, and never confuse chaos for passion. You're built for truth, brother. And the more of it you walk in, the more of it you'll attract.